Welcome to the Vet Med Wellness and Leadership Podcast, where we discuss central challenges vet med leaders face, such as burnout, stress, and difficult interactions with clients and staff, just to name a few. In each episode, you will hear about actionable solutions that you can apply to your practice and invitations to connect with fellow leaders who are passionate about improving the wellness of the vet med profession. By subscribing, liking, commenting, or sharing this podcast, you are helping more veterinary professionals find the resources shared in these episodes. Thank you in advance for listening and supporting this show. I hope you enjoy it. Hey everybody, Crystal Stokes here, and joining me today from chilly Southern Ontario is Senani, and we are going to talk all about things related to the busy season, primarily that negativity that we feel as we're approaching the busy season. So this podcast is going to drop right around late spring, early summer. Oftentimes in veterinary medicine, we're anticipating getting hit by a bus. And so tensions run high, negativity bias is strong, we're bracing ourselves, our hackles are up, right? So we're going to be diving into that more today. But before we get into that meaty topic, I would love to have you introduce yourself a bit and tell us, how'd you even get into this fun profession of veterinary medicine?
I'm super jazzed to be here talking about this topic. I think it's going to be awesome. So my name is Senani, and honestly, I was actually pre-med, thought I wanted to be a human doctor. Don't judge me for that too harshly. Yeah. And I actually had a really, honestly, negative experience with one of my pets. And it really made me take a step back and think about, so what is this vet med thing all about? And I really wanted to make sure that no one else went through the experience I went through as a pet owner. And it took me down a whole other path. And that's how I ended up here. So became an RVT and have worked in industry and have worked as a consultant and all kinds of things. But this is my passion. This is where I'm meant to be, for sure.
I love that. It's such an interesting way because, honestly, oftentimes in veterinary medicine, we come to veterinary medicine because we don't like people, right? You hear that said all the time.
Yes.
People are gross. I'm in veterinary medicine because I really prefer to be around animals as much as possible and to avoid humans at all costs. Yeah. So you're one of the outliers of someone who actually was leaning towards human medicine.
I mean, I joke about it. I joke about it a little bit, and I say that I see people as kind of an interesting social experiment. So I just approach it that way. And that usually works for me.
Oh, I love that so much. What helped me with humans is to say they're just one more animal, right? If I love all animals, and this is just one of the more complicated animals.
Yeah.
All right. So let's dig into this. Can you tell me a little bit about how did this topic of how to work with negativity even become something you were interested in tackling?
Even when I was in practice, so often we do it to ourselves. So often we get really focused on the negative things that happen, the things we can't fix, the things we can't control. And it really starts to bring you down. I think about, you get home at the end of the day and someone would say, how was your day? And you never start with, I should never say never, but we often don't start with, oh my God, all these great things happen. We go, oh, let me tell you. And we get into that one thing that we didn't get to solve for or fix or that we couldn't control. So, this idea of negativity, there's so much of it. We're really good at it, unfortunately. And then once we start, because of the working environment we have where we're all sort of working together and there's so much collaboration, we can take each other down pretty fast with that spiral of if one thing goes badly, how many other things are going to go badly?
Oh, yes. Like the slip and slide down to hell. Yeah. I want to say for those people listening, if you're feeling that pressure, leading into the busy season, or maybe it's just there all the time where driving into work, there's a sense of dread of, oh my gosh, another day, kind of grinding through the day, noticing that we are kind of bonding while at work by talking about all the things that really, really suck about that client or that team member, and then getting home and kind of venting to our partner or friends and kind of rinse and repeat doing it over and over again. I just want to say that you're in the right place to be listening to this, and there might just be another path to take. And that's what we're going to get into today. Yeah.
Let's hope so. Yeah.
Let's do that. So let's talk about the different types of bias and how they impact us on a regular basis.
So there are so many different types of bias, and There are two that I would love to share, and one being negativity bias, this thing we just talked about, right? This idea that we are very good at remembering the bad, or we're very good at giving the bad more weight than things that are good or things that are neutral. So they just take up more space, they take up more capacity. And what I often see is the combination of negativity bias with what we call confirmation bias. And confirmation bias is when we believe something is true, we look for more evidence that makes it true. So when you have negativity bias on one side and confirmation bias on the other side, that can lead to complete havoc, because it's like, I walk into the treatment room. I used to work Emerge very early on in my career, walk into the treatment room, about to get into the evening, and someone says, "Did you see it's a full moon?" And that's it. Game over. The whole night, we are just looking for all of the examples of, see, it's definitely a full moon. Drop my pen. Oh, it is a full moon. Like nothing has even happened, but we're looking for the evidence that makes it true that it's going to be a difficult night. If we say, "Oh my gosh, it's going to be so busy today. Did you see the schedule?" Then we look for all the evidence that makes it that negative thing that we were anticipating. So I think those two biases really, really play into how we actually show up every day.
Where do you think these came from? Like, what's the function? I always like to think of the behaviors we have, the ways we process information. There's some kind of an inherent intelligence underneath of them. So if you speculate on how we develop these and the function they serve, what do you think?
I mean, we're humans, and as you mentioned earlier, that is a type of animal. So we still have to be protective of ourselves. We are constantly on the lookout in the environment to say, what am I protecting myself on or from? And what are the things I need to anticipate to mitigate the risks? And so our brains are wired that way, right? They're wired that way to look for the negative and look for the things that we have to fix and look for the things that are going to be problematic. And so part of, what we're talking about today is the idea that even if evolution taught us this is a good idea and our brain needs to work a certain way, it doesn't mean that we can't, with intention, purposefully start focusing on something else, or at least give it a little bit more weight than we've given it in the past.
Absolutely. What I want to highlight here too is that we know in veterinary medicine, many of us that are attracted to the field have a propensity towards perfectionism. Yeah. And wanting to do things the right way, and also having quite a bit of anxiety, which is anticipation of something bad happening in the future. So we kind of bundle those together. It creates this perfect like ecosystem for us to feel pretty bad about ourselves on a regular basis. If we're scanning the environment thinking, what did I not do well enough? What did I do wrong? What did I mess up? Even getting feedback. For instance, I see on teams where really skillful leaders are really mindful to give a lot of positive feedback in addition to the corrective, constructive feedback, where they're like, "Hey, really appreciate the way you stepped in there and handled that client and really de-escalated that situation. Nice job. Hey, I really appreciated how you took that new tech under your wing and was helping them get more comfortable with some of our protocols. Love it. By the way, I noticed on that medication, you didn't double check it, or you did more than 2 pokes on that dog. So next time, remember 2 pokes and you move on." They kind of weave it all together so that feedback just feels like a continuous thing, whether it's, constructive or positive. But if we're scanning the environment, always looking for what did we do wrong? How are we not good enough? Where are we in danger? That one little bit of critical feedback explodes in our mind, right? We start to feel so bad about ourselves, and all the good feedback we just received is just garbage. Like it didn't even exist.
Gone out the window. Gone out the window. I love that example too, because in what you're talking about there with the positives, you were giving such specific examples. And one of the things that this is just a pro tip for leaders out there, and maybe even just for team members, when we give feedback to our peers that's positive, with so many people being perfectionists in our industry, going to someone at the end of the day and saying, "Hey, great job today," almost feels like an insult. It's like, what kind of job did you think I was going to do? Right? So I love the examples you gave, because they were so specific. It's the 2 poke rule, and you followed it, and you were able to mentor someone. And I love how you handled that call with Mrs. Smith today. Thank you so much for taking that on. Giving such specific feedback allows us to really anchor to something and know that there's an actual thing that we did well, not just showing up and checking the box, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I'm going to share something a little bit personal of how I worked on my own issue of not taking in the good. It was like probably in my 20s, I think. No, actually maybe 30s. I was in therapy, and
Yeah.
noticing with my therapist how I didn't have a way to even remember when people gave me positive feedback. It would just literally like
Totally.
water off a duck's back. It was gone. And so what she had me do is create like a Google Doc and write them down, like put the date, put the name of the person, and so I've gone back and looked at this thing from years ago, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like these
Yeah.
things I never would have remembered. But the act of actually writing them down was like it's kind of somebody gives you a gift and you receive the gift. You're like, wow, thank you for this, this little knickknack. I'm going to place it right here on my desk and
An
appreciate you
actual
gave it to me.
object. It's an actual thing, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like really receiving it. And that takes a lot of work, I think, for those who have, more perfectionistic tendencies or stronger like negativity and confirmation bias. It can be really hard to let the positive land. So anyway, I kind of digress. I want to take us back on track and kind of shift into we're talking about we know that if we're focusing too much on the negative, this significantly impacts our day, how we feel. Probably physiologically, it's not great, not good for our relationships, our health, the environment around us. Also, social contagion or emotional contagion, that if we're being negative, it's like spreading to the rest of the group. We know all these things are elements within the workplace. So maybe we could dovetail a little bit into like, but what the heck do we do about it?
Yeah, what do we do? There's so much language, and again, language we all know that's in the negative. So compassion fatigue, empathic distress, burnout, all of these things. And one of the things that we don't talk about often enough, if at all, I would say in some circles, is compassion satisfaction.
Mm.
And compassion satisfaction is very simply us paying closer attention to the good, because it really is us paying attention to the joy, the satisfaction of the job. When we do something good, what is the positive outcome of that? And can I pocket that all day long? Right. And so to your point, there are people who have paid you really wonderful compliments. And many of us are terrible at taking compliments. Have you noticed that? It's like you pay someone because they're like, oh no, it was nothing. It's like, well, actually it was something, but it feels weird if we go, yeah, because I worked really hard on that. You're welcome. I'm glad you noticed. It feels like a really inappropriate response. So we brush stuff off. And
Mm.
compassion satisfaction is all about us paying more attention to the good things and all of the stuff that brings us joy through the day, so that we can feel more fulfilled at the end of the day.
Yeah. I really, really like this because it is kind of a clunky term. When people hear it, they're probably, what the heck does that even mean?
Totally.
If we were to break it down into, I know I remember things well if they're like numbers, like one, two,
Yeah.
three. If we break
Okay.
it down like that to share with those listening, can we try that? Like,
I love that you want three, because I've got you three. Compassion satisfaction for me, I talk about this topic a lot. And I feel like there are three really solid ways to help us refocus our attention back into more positive things. So the first one is how we share our stories. We are very good at telling all of the stories of all the bad things that happen, negative things that happen. Oh my God, guess what you missed last night when after you left for the day, right? This kind of thing. We are not nearly as good as sitting back and celebrating the positives. And they don't have to be big positives. I mean, I know that we all wear capes and we save animals every day, and we do an incredible job with that. But there are lots of small things that happen all day long that we just brush off and don't pay attention to, that we really should be taking a lot more pride in. And so even just like, you've seen a client's reaction. They come in for a cohat, they bring in their pet, they have grungy teeth and lots of tartar and buildup. And then we do that, the prophy, and they have their cohat and they go home, and the client sees the teeth for the first time, and that pet parent is just wowed because you can see the teeth again, which is, amazing. And we just sit there going, oh, it's just the job, but it's not. We get wonderful Google reviews, we get cards from clients. Even, I mean, we all know, right, the thing we get the most cards for is euthanasias. These are also stories. They're special stories. So we have to be able to share our stories. We have to talk about things that are positive too. We have to, after we've worked on a really hard case, right, maybe hospitalized a patient for a few days, when we do the follow-up call and we hear that they're doing great at home, that needs to be something we tell the whole team. That shouldn't just be held onto for the person that did the follow-up call or the doctor that got to check in with them. We need to go back, because every single person worked with that pet. And whether they were super hands-on with it or they were the one cleaning the litter box at the end of the night, we all know and we feel so deeply about our patients. So first one, share our stories. Second one, don't take things for granted. We are terrible at taking things for granted. And I'll give you some examples, like clients buying food is one of my favorite examples, because we're up there, CSRs. I know how hard it is working at that front reception area, and people are coming and going, and it's busy and it's loud sometimes. And then you got people checking in and people checking out. And depending on the structure of your practice, it could be just you doing all of these things and answering the phones, and someone comes up to buy a bag of food. And it's like, oh, great, they're just here to buy food. But what we're taking for granted is the fact that at some point along the way, we recommended this food and they were already feeding something else. And somehow they decided that they're going to take our recommendation. And now they drive to our practice every time. They go to the grocery store and there's food there, but they don't buy it there. They go to Costco and there's food there. They don't buy it there. They go to the pet store and they're not buying it there. They're coming to us because they believe in a recommendation we made, enough so that they're following through. And we should be celebrating that. We should be celebrating all of these different things that just kind of happen and we take them for granted. It's like, oh, we have a morning, it's just all vaccines. How boring. Yeah, boring until the lepto patient comes in, the parvo puppy comes in, and we're frustrated because people didn't do those basics. And then these people with perfectly healthy pets come in and they spend the money and they take the time to come in. And then we just kind of brush it off as it's just a vaccine appointment. We can't do that. So that's number 2. Don't take things for granted. The third one, think about all of the things that we get to do. There's so much that we get to do if we want to frame it that way. A day where I use the vaccine example, right? Like a day where there's a lot of vaccines. Well, yeah, we got to do a bunch of vaccines, but what does that really mean? We got to save all of these pets. We got to protect them from these terrible diseases out there. We got to have a really great conversation with a pet parent where maybe we found out he actually itches his ear a lot. And we start talking about something else completely different that's helpful for this patient and for this pet parent. And so the things that we get to do, spays and neuters, we get to do spays and neuters. And as a result of getting to do those, we protect these pets. Even some of the more negative things, like I hear a lot lately around people running short-staffed. And so it's really easy to fall into that trap of, oh, can you believe we don't have enough people today? And yet if we reframe it in our minds and say, so what do we get to do today? It's like we get to actually really figure out how we work together as a team, and we pulled through and we rallied and we looked out for each other and we collaborated and we nailed it. And at the end of the day, we all go home, we're tired, but maybe we're actually quite happy if we can reframe. And so, yeah, these 3 things, if you're looking to have a little bit more compassion, satisfaction, share your stories, don't take things for granted, and make sure you think about all the things you get to do.
Okay, I'm going to shout out a hospital that we work with. It's a organization, I should say,
Yeah.
in Texas called TCAP, Texas Coalition for Animal Protection. I want to shout them out. We've been with them for several years now, and we watch every year. They do a lot of like high volume spay and neuter, like, just trying to keep the pet population healthy, always making recommendations for like flea and tick prevention. They are on it. And as they enter the busy season, which is now, it's an incredibly intense time. They add extra team members to help get through it, to buffer. But nevertheless, there are always going to be hitches in the giddy up where someone calls out or something goes wrong or they have an influx they didn't expect. And the way leadership in that company has over time evolved the story, like you were saying, they start with a story. It's not about, oh my God, the busy season, we're gonna get our butts kicked. It's like getting excited and pumped up for game time, like your team that's going into the game. Like we've trained all year for this. We are ready for this. Their clinic managers work their butts off to get each of the clinics ready to go so they can run optimally during the busy season, like how the workflow happens, and you look at them, just that mindset of entering into the busy season, prepared, already having a game plan, looking forward to the challenge in a way. And their mission is so loud throughout the entire company of what would Texas look like if we didn't exist? Imagine what the pet population would be like. They feel privileged that they get to do this work. Even the doctors that work there, you think about being a doctor just doing tons and tons of spays and neuters. Sometimes that burns some doctors out, but the doctors I've spoken to on that team love it. They love their job. They're like, churn and burn, baby, churn and burn. And they get it done. And there's just such a sense of like true accomplishment. And they're also very numbers based. Like, look at the numbers we've achieved today, you guys. Like, high five yourselves, pat on the back. Like, look at how many pets that we helped out today, how many owners we helped out, and even pets that don't have parents come in, right?
Yeah.
community animals. It's just remarkable to see it in action. So I just want to say that what you're describing, it really works. This is not lip service, people. If you're just hearing it going, yeah, that sounds nice. No, do it. If you actually start to do this, you will see changes in the way your team operates. It reduces burnout because you're feeling like your cup is full instead of empty all the time. You look forward to your day, you come out, even during the really hard days. It's like, it was really hard, but we're doing it for a reason. There was purpose and meaning behind it. And that changes so much of the dynamic of how you feel day in and day out. So I just love your 3 points so much.
I love it. Big shout out to them. I give a big shout out to all of Texas. Why don't I do that? One of my dogs came from Texas. And so,
All the way to Canada?
yeah, all the way, yeah. She lives in Ontario now, but she came from Texas. You know what? Like, that is a perfect example. And it's just the irony. We got into this because we want to help as many animals as possible. Yeah, okay, so like a bunch of them show up at once and they really do, right? Like, but this is not new. We've lived this our whole lives in vet med. It's not new. And so if we can really rally and say, okay, we've got this. Do you know how many pets we are going to vaccinate and help and find new things in and protect from parasites, right? Like, it's pretty special. It's quite remarkable. And if we think of the opposite, if all those clients stopped coming in, imagine how we'd feel then. Like, what would we even be doing with ourselves? Honestly, they're doing exactly what we've asked them to do. They're being good, compliant, adherent pet parents. That's the thing we wanted. It's the thing we want. And so we do have to think about that, and really celebrate it.
So good. Can you talk a little bit about how this helps us combat or like prevent things like empathic distress? Because let's say we know in veterinary medicine that scares all of us, especially people in leadership positions. We worry about our team members getting secondary trauma, compassion fatigue, these sorts of things. Because sometimes it's hard to talk about. We may not raise our hand and say, hey, I'm really suffering, but we start to notice the glitter in a person's eyes is like dulling, and they're kind of something shifting in them. They're not their usual self, but it's vulnerable, like to try and approach someone when they're in this place. It's very personal. So I'd love to know more about how you have seen practicing this, essentially bringing more positivity into your mindset about how you approach your work, how it protects against that empathic distress.
The idea of even calling it empathic distress, we're running low on that empathy piece. We want to help. We desperately want to help and do more. And we kind of are like, I got nothing left to give. That capacity piece is such an important piece. And when you have that compassion satisfaction element, when you're able to see the outcomes, the positive outcomes of your efforts, then you can have a little bit more capacity for the things that aren't going as well. It can be really empowering. It's something that happens when you're helping, right? This is a helping profession. And the empathic distress piece comes from that idea that we are helping and helping and helping, but not everything goes to plan. It just doesn't. And so the idea that we can refocus, the idea that we can remind ourselves, you know what? Some of this effort is really paying off. Some of this effort is resulting in really wonderful things. And it's the things that we do take for granted. An appointment goes totally well. Client just says yes to everything we asked for because they're a wonderful pet parent. We didn't even have to work that hard or try too hard to convince them to do the food or book the prophy or whatever it is. And then we just write it off going, yep, appointment, check. And then off we go to the next thing. And then someone gets mad at us on the phone and that we hang on to. And so what can we do to hang on to that incredible pet parent who had a lovely conversation with us, and we got to talk about the dog's pigtails in the appointment and how cute the blue bows were? Like, where's all of that to celebrate when we go home? So it's giving ourselves that capacity, but it also allows us to remember that we do have strengths and we have wins all day long, and we're rallying as a team. And there's something to be said for working on a team and that dynamic, and the fact that we all have this thing in common, this goal, and it's important and it's valuable. So I think that, with that in mind, it can be really, really helpful because we get more balance.
Okay, I'm geeking out right now because as a marriage and family therapist, when I hear you describe this, my mind goes to some of the research that we do on what creates long lasting, really loving, stable partnerships like marriage or
Yeah.
whatever configuration you may be in.
Yeah.
And something that is so profound, I think anybody would relate to this, which is when you first start a relationship, everything's new. And we're so appreciative of this person. Like, oh, I just appreciate, how tender you are with me. I appreciate how you show affection. I love that you get the door for me. Thank you for buying me dinner, like whatever it might be. Thank you for taking out the trash. Like everything is so wow. We appreciate them so much for all the things. And then after a year or two or whatever of being together, we're not thanking them anymore. We're not saying, I appreciate these things about you. And a pro tip for a long and happy, partnership is to keep those newness goggles on. Try to see our partners with those fresh eyes of imagine what it would be like if they weren't in our lives, that those we wouldn't receive these things from them. We wouldn't have that support, that tenderness, that care, and to never let ourselves take it for granted. And I think it's exactly what you're saying here in the workplace as well, to try to bring that beginner's mind back, to have it be fresh. And that does take, I always think of children. Like children are so good at doing this, right? The world is
Yeah,
new.
of course.
It's so surprising. It's like bringing that childlike energy back of noticing and being really present to what's happening right now, and kind of perspective of we've been in something for so long. It's like we get desensitized, right? I live in Santa Barbara. I must say it's incredibly beautiful here. I could see though how living here for 10 years, you might not notice how gorgeous it is. Like, oh, that we have beautiful weather every day and we have the mountains and the ocean and wow. But to purposefully stop and take it all in and say, this is remarkable. I feel so grateful to be here right now. So I think what you're speaking to also kind of dovetails into, I think, one of our last points that we wanted to touch on is kind of like work-life balance. I'm bringing in a little bit of the rest of our life, like outside of work. It could be our well-being, our family, our friends, our hobbies. Can you say a little more about that too?
Yeah, I can. One of the things I'll say before I get totally into that topic is it is really important that we're making the shift when we go from home to work and then from work to home. I have a little cheat sheet of things that you can even think about. So as you're leaving for the day, things to think about: what is something that went really well? What is something you want to work on for next time? Just to kind of reset your brain. Actually think about the things with intention, not having them float in and out of your mind as you're driving home, but actually stop and think about 3 or 4 things. What is something I rocked today? Who did I help today? So that those are the things that are top of mind as you're shifting gears, right? This idea of work-life balance, I got to tell you, like, honestly, Crystal, this language makes me a little bit crazy. And so I'm going to sound super judgy right now. But, for me, this profession is much more than just work. And I think that's true for so many people in our profession. It's, even like many of us think we have hobbies, and then you look at what they are and they're all animal related anyway, right? People are like, oh yeah, I really like to take a step back from work and I ride and I do this and I train dogs. And it's like, well, hang on a second, right? You didn't take that far of a step away from vet med, right? And so this idea of telling my brain, I need to balance my work from my life as 2 separate things. Well, then that becomes an impossible task. Like, you can't do that. That's a mission that doesn't actually have something you can be successful in, because separating work from your life is really challenging if your work and the things that you're passionate about are a big part of your life. And so I like different language. I like working balance. I know some people like working rhythm and things like that, or work-life rhythm. I don't like that just because it still has work and life as separate things. But for me, working balance really kind of hits that mark of every single one of us has stuff going on. We have stuff going on at work. There's stuff going on at home. There's stuff going on in the mornings and stuff going on in the evenings. And what we have to do is find the balance. And balance is constant motion, right? Like, it's a little bit over here and now a little bit over there. Finding a working balance for myself for today, in this moment, even knowing that balance might be different in an hour from now and in a week from now, and that's okay. And it's going to look differently to what everyone else is doing, and that's okay, because they're all balancing different things as well. But sometimes, yeah, work's going to take way more focus, and other times life's going to take way more focus. And as long as it's a working balance for you and you're not letting anyone down, or at least, and that's also something we have to be mindful of, is setting expectations for ourselves that are unrealistic, right? That piece of it is really, really important, because it really does lend itself to how we see things positively and negatively.
I like the phrase work-life integration. Like I want my whole life to be integrated. They're
Yeah,
all
sure. Yeah.
feeding and supporting each other.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely very guilty of what you described of my passion and hobbies are all kind of the same across the board. It's like I'm so lucky that I make money doing what I think is so interesting, because I'd do it anyway. If I wasn't getting paid, I'd like, I still need to do this. It's a very fortunate situation. And I do see a lot of that in vet med, that we're just crazy about animals and medicine and in nature and things like that. So our life and work all kind of look like one big soup.
Yep. We really do get good at looking for the negative, seeing the negative, and then fixating on it. But one thing I'll say, especially when we talk about clients and stuff like that, because you mentioned this earlier, right? Like we get focused on talking about that client, I want to just put some food for thought out there, that the worst pet owner is truly going to be someone you never meet. They are not coming to your hospital. They are not going to see the vet. They are not bringing their pet in, despite whatever is going on with their pet. So when we get to see someone in our hospital, when we get to see a patient, we have to be really mindful of that they're here now. And there's something to be said for that. They can't be the worst because they showed up, right? That's the kind of reframing that's going to really help us move forward. That's the kind of reframing that gives us the balance we want.
Hearts. So as we're bringing this down the home stretch, I'd love to have you just pause and reflect. If listeners today only remember, say, 2 things from this entire talk, and it can be something new, it can be something we already talked about, what do you hope they walk away with?
I hope that we can catch ourselves a little bit more in practice when someone says something negative, something that we know we're going to start to spiral on and get confirmation bias, like it's a full moon, or did you say how packed the day is? It's going to be like this. I would like for everyone to have that little tiny voice in the back of your brain say, ooh, hang on a second. Before I start letting my brain go rogue and finding all the evidence that makes that true and negative, I'm going to catch myself. I'm going to catch that person. Maybe we reset as a group and say, okay, let's reframe that whole thing. So I would love for that reframe to be top of mind for people. So we're just listening and watching out for it. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is just to remember that compassion satisfaction is not a made up term. Please go look it up, look into it. Even when you look at the professional quality of life assessment, it is one of the things they measure. It mitigates the risk for the bad things that we talk about all the time. And so look into compassion satisfaction, because it's worth it to do so. Everyone in vet med should know that language as well as we know the other stuff. Those would be my 2 things.
I love it. It reminds me, it's almost like compassion satisfaction is like a vaccine.
Yes. Yes. Everyone needs it. Yeah.
I have loved this conversation so much. And for those listening today, you can check out our show notes. We're going to link up more resources for you. So please go there. And if people want to connect with you, what is the best way for them to find you?
LinkedIn is probably a really good way, but you can also message me through LinkedIn or even email me. I am more than happy to connect with anyone that wants to connect. I love it.
Fabulous. All that will be in the show notes. So please do check it out. And again, thank you for being on with me today. This has been such a blast.
Yeah, it's been so good. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you feel stoked after listening to this episode. And as always, I would love to hear your comments and feedback. Is there a topic that you want to know more about? Please let me know. And thank you again for subscribing and sharing your favorite episodes with others. It really means a lot.